Hello, my sweet and precious students. I recorded this entire lesson and then didn't realize, or realized I hadn't pressed record yet. So I'm gonna reteach it to you. Guys, welcome back. Following along at home, third edition, algebra, 1/2. That's probably where I ended up stopping it before. We are on lesson 63, changing rates. We're going to talk about changing rates. So this is on page 201, example number 1. Prince Charming traveled 60 leagues in 2 days. 60 leagues in 2 days. Then he doubled his rate. Well, let's first figure out what his rate is. It looks like it would be 30 leagues in 1 day, right? Because if I divide the top and bottom by if I cut both of them in half, right, I would get that unit rate, which is that 1. So 30 leagues in a day. Then he doubled his rate, meaning that we're going to double it, so we're going to multiply it by 2. And that gives us 60 leagues in 1 day. That's our new rate there, our new rate. How long would it take him to go 300 leagues at this new speed? 60 leagues. I'm just rewriting this guy. 1 day equals. Now, before we go any further, we need to write a key. When you're doing word problems, you have to have a key for these things. And the key just says, so the question says, how long would it take him to go 300 leagues at the new speed? Let x equal time to go 300 leagues. Okay, so we know that 300 leagues goes up at the top here because the 60 goes up there. And what we don't know is the time in days, right? So we're going to throw our x here. Let x equal the time, and then we're going to plug it in. So what we really have, guys, is 60 over 1 equals 300 over x. Fraction equals fraction. Fantastic. We can cross multiply. So we get this times this, which gives me 60x equals this times this, which gives me 300. Divide that by 60, divide this by 60, cancel, cancel. X equals, lob those off, 30 divided by 6 gives me 5. And remember, let x equal the time to go 300 leagues. Well, that would be 5 days. 5 days, because it's in the days part right here. So please, you would write, it would take him 5 days to go 300 leagues, okay? Example number 2. The machine could cap 500 bottles in 2 hours. 500 bottles in 2 hours. Before I even read any further, what I know now is that means it's 250 bottles in 1 hour. If the rate of the machine were tripled, how many bottles could be capped in 10? So our new rate means we're going to triple however many bottles can be capped, and that's going to give me 750 bottles in 1 hour. Now it's asking how many could be capped in 10 hours. Let x equal number of bottles capped in, or you can just say number of bottles capped, right? And then, so we're going to take this new rate that we have here, and we're going to write that down, 750 bottle over 1 hour, and it's asking about 10 hours. So I'm putting the 10 on the bottom because it's going to match this hour here. And then we're going to throw our x here because we said let x equal the number of bottles capped, and that's exactly what we're doing here. And we have 1 times x gives me x equals 750 times that is 75 with 2 zeros. 7,500 bottles could be capped in 10 hours. All right, so example number 3. Raul ran 6 miles in 2 hours. Then he ran, so let's just figure out our unit rate straight off the bat, right? That would be 3 miles in 1 hour. Then he ran 20 miles in 4 hours. All right, well, 20 miles in 4 hours equals, and let's figure out a rate for this one, right? Divide both by 4, you get 5 miles in 1 hour. By how much did his rate increase? His rate increased. It went from 3 miles per hour to 5 miles per hour. So his rate increased by 2 miles per hour. Miles per hour. All right, guys. So your practice problems are on page 63, down at the bottom there. There you go. Let's take a look at that first one. Pause for a sec. All right, let's start with that first one. Jim drove 120, so this is practice. And we're gonna do A. So Jim drove 120 miles to Grandma's house in 3 hours. So it was 120 miles to Grandma's house. Let's figure out his rate. I'm really close to my computer there. So in order to do that, of course, we would divide this by 3, we get 1 hour. Divide this by 3, we get 40 miles. So his rate was 40 miles per 1 hour. He increased his speed by 10 miles per hour on the way home. So, which equals, let's do 40 miles per hour plus 10 miles per hour equals 50 miles per hour. So his new rate is 50 miles per hour. Now, I've written it like this because this is usually what we're familiar with seeing, but let's write it in that fraction form. 50 miles per 1 hour equals, how long did it take him to drive home? Let X equal the time it took him to drive home in hours, right? In hours, not in days, not in minutes, none of that, in hours. All right, so we know that, so what we're looking for is the time, right? So we're gonna put an X here. What we need is the mileage. Remember, he went to Grandma's house and Grandma's house did not move and his house presumably did not move. There is still 120 miles between the two, regardless of what their rate is. So 120 miles. Let's do some cross multiplying. This times this would give me 50x equals 120. Divide this by 50, divide this by 50. X equals, I'm trying to save some room here on this paper so I don't have to keep sliding it up and down. So I'm kind of going a little bit out of order. Usually I like you to work downwards, but I'm jumping over to here. So X equals 12/5. Now let's go back and look. Let X equal the time it took him to drive in hours. If you came up to me and you said 12/5 of an hour, I'm gonna say, I have no idea what that means. Put that into a mixed number. Generally, I'm okay with improper fractions, but for word problems, put them into a mixed number. So, or 2, right? And then put the 5 down here. 5 times 2 is 10, plus 2 more is 12. So 2 2/5 hours. 2 2/5 of an hour. Okay, so then let's look at B. Margot could pickle 500 cucumbers in 2 hours. 500 cukes in 2 hours. Let's find her unit rate. That means if we cut this in half and cut that in half, I get 250 cucumbers in, I'm calling them cukes, in 1 hour. She got tired and reduced her rate by 1/2. Oh, okay, so now she took this. It's still gonna be 1 hour, but now she cut that in half, so it's 125 cucumbers. This is reduced, or I should say like new rate. I probably should have written that about new rate. Okay, is 125 in an hour. How long would it take her to pickle 2,000 cucumbers at the new rate? Let X equal time to pickle 2,000 cucumbers. Okay, so we've got our rate here, which is 125 cucumbers in 1 hour, which equals, we want to know how she's going to do 2,000 cucumbers. 2,000 cucumbers. X equals time. Sorry, it was off the screen there. It's not very helpful. So we've got 125 cucumbers, 1 hour. There we go. Cross multiply. We've got 125x equals 2,000. Again, I'm doing this times this equals this times this. Divide by 125, divide by 125. X equals, divided by 125 gives me 16. Again, we go back and we look and we're like, okay, X equals the time to pickle 2,000. So it takes our 16 and our time is in hours. So, all right, guys, if you have any questions at all, let me know. Otherwise, great work, and I will see you in class.